Now, when talking about the execution flow, it's important to mention the existence of loops. Now, as you can imagine, loops are just a way for programs to repeat some code. The most basic loop that you can find is the while loop. Now, what it does is similar to what the if statement does. It takes a Boolean condition, uh, we can assume true, and execute that code only if that is true. But the difference with the if statement is that the if statement only executes once. Instead, the while statement will execute the code inside the block anytime this condition is evaluated to true. So, since we put a constant value of true here, if we put some code here, this code will be executed infinite time. If we now run node while.js, this code will run forever. And to stop the program, you'll have to press Ctrl C. And to actually see that this code is indeed being run every time, so by declaring a counter and printing it with the message and incrementing it, this is plus plus here, just the is equal to take the counter and assign to it the counter itself, which does really nothing actually, as is written here, but it adds one to that. So this one is all written here with plus plus. And if we run this code now, we see, oh, actually, you have actually to save your file. If we run this code now, we see how many times it gets executed. So if we don't want the code to run forever, we have to put here a condition that will actually evaluate to false at some time. Here I'll write only counter less or equal than 100, so that this code in the block will be executed 101 time actually because of the zero. But then once a counter will be at the value of 101, then 101 is greater than 100. Therefore, this will be false, and this code will not be executed, and therefore will go on only when the counter will be 101, and we can also confirm that it exits at, and we'll see what the value of counter is. If we now launch the program, we see that indeed at 101 we do not get the help message, but we get that the message that is outside the while block. Now, there is also a more compact way to write code, which would be using the for statement. Now, as you can imagine, we write the for statement by writing for followed by some parentheses and some piece of code contained in a block. But what is special about the for loop is that it does not take only one argument, but instead it takes three arguments. And actually, we can separe, we can distinguish them by the semicolon. And in the first argument, you can declare some variables that will be accessible only inside the code. And actually, this is only code that is executed only once before everything starts. So would be this code here, and I can put it here. Please notice how writing this or writing this without anything here is actually the same, but this variable will be visible also outside instead. While when doing this in this way, by declaring but using the let keyword a variable, uh, by declaring using the let keyword inside the first argument of the for loop, this code will be executed only once, and the, the variable will be visible only here and not outside. So the second argument is actually very similar to the if one and the while one, and and it is just something that has to be evaluated to a boolean, and it is the condition that tells the for loop to execute or not the code. And at the end, there is a third argument, which is some code that is executed every time the loops end. Therefore, writing some code here is very similar to writing some code at the very end of the loop. So writing counter plus plus here is actually the same of writing counter plus plus inside here. So by writing the same code you wrote here in the while statement into the for loop, we can see how it took really much less code to write the same program. In fact, if I now run the for file, we get actually the same output, but with much more less code because of how we can declare the variable into the for loop. Actually, of course, this can be written everything in a single line.